Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and Johto is coming out soon. Specifically, it should be coming out in spring 2023, so I thought this would be the perfect time to remake my original list, top 5 Pokemon to help you beat PokeMMO. But however, this list is based for 2023. Now, when I say top 5 Pokemon to help you beat PokeMMO, I'm talking about any region, any storyline, any gym leader, wherever you may be stuck. These Pokemon should allow you to steamroll through everything. Now, I will be going from weakest to strongest, but none of these Pokemon are quite weak. All of them are going to be fantastic for the storyline, but stick around to see the strongest user for the storyline. But there should also be timestamps for the video if you want to skip around and just see everything quickly. I will be laying out things a little more in depth, though, with all the positives and negatives of each Pokemon. Let's go ahead and jump into it with our honorable mention, so our ranked 6 Pokemon. This honorable mention is an incredible Pokemon for a ton of reasons, but I'm going to be talking about Quiver Dance Blossom here. First things first, Quiver Dance Blossom can be achieved in pretty much any region. You need to get yourself an Oddish, which has tons and tons of very early game wild locations. Even in the Safari Zone, you see things like Route 102 in Hoenn. You see things like Route 2 in Kanto. It's really early game, even in Sinnoh. It's a little later game. It's a later game in Sinnoh, but early game in Kanto in Hoenn. It's really easy to pick up as an Oddish. There's also tons of Wild Gloom locations you can look for as well. And the great thing about Oddish is that it really does help you early game in Kanto against Brock and Misty, but it evolves into Gloom at level 21, and then you're able to just use a Sunstone on it at 21, which is like very, very cheap, like 3k Pokeyen on the GTL. Using a Sunstone on it at level 21 will get you that Blossom, so it's a very early threat to be able to achieve. You can get this after your first gym badge in most regions. Ignore the fact that this one is shiny, obviously you don't need that, but looking at the moveset, I think something like Quiver Dance and Giga Drain is all you really need. Coverage moves like Sludge Bomb and utility stuff like Sleep Powder is unbelievably helpful, but not super needed. You obviously can learn Sleep Powder via level up. Sludge Bomb might be a TM. Let's go ahead and check out the move pool itself, but getting Quiver Dance at the start is incredible. If you don't know, setup moves are just extremely powerful in PokeMMO, and being able to raise your special attack, special defense, and speed stat all in one turn is incredibly useful in PokeMMO. The AIs and the gym leaders are not pushovers. Getting that special defense up, that bulk up, is super important, and Blossom is a very bulky Pokemon. 75 HP is its lowest defense stat, but 95 defense, 100 base special defense, nothing to scoff at. That 90 base special attack, it's a really good all-around Pokemon. The biggest thing it's hurting for is the speed. That 50 speed would really hold it back if not for Quiver Dance raising the speed. Being able to tank a hit or two with its natural bulk and Quiver Dance up 2 times and then just start spamming Giga Drains to heal back all that HP you just lost, you're able to sustain. It's very cheap to get early on, very budget. The one downside is that it only is a grass type Pokemon, so you only have 1 stab in grass type and you don't really gain other type advantages, but I think it's definitely worthwhile and it's a great beginner Pokemon. Moving on to number 5 on our list, our 5th Pokemon. It's going to be the best for storyline. I hopped over to an alt account to show you guys a perfect example of this. It's going to be Cloyster. Shell Smash Cloyster can be super, super, super powerful during the storylines. Now, Cloyster is not the easiest Pokemon to achieve, but it's not super difficult either. You usually just need access to a good or Super Rod, and once you have access to that, you can see it in Route 11 in Kanto, or even Vermilion City at a rare encounter, or Vermilion City at an uncommon encounter with a Super Rod. But getting those rods can get you a little bit into the storyline. This is definitely not a Pokemon you're going to be looking to get immediately during your first storyline. This is sort of a second storyline, or third or fourth, or later on sort of deal, when you're able to really set up and prepare a Pokemon heading into a storyline. Specifically, you're going to want to make sure you have Skill Link on your Cloyster. Cloyster is a bit of probably the most expensive Pokemon on this list, or one of the more expensive Pokemons, at least up there, to actually build. You need the Skill Link ability. It is absolutely crucial. You need Shell Smash and Icicle Spear, which thankfully it do learn naturally, but Rock Blast and Pin Missile are really nice coverage moves that you have to TM, I believe, so you're not able to just just get these easily. They cost a bit of Pokeyen. Now you are able to just go with Ice Shard or something as a budget move. Having that priority Ice Shard is honestly really solid, not bad at all. You might want to have some Focus Ashes as well in the background, which can be really nice and helpful. So it's a bit of a riskier mon, but a little more expensive to set up. And then getting a good IV Shelter / Cloyster can be a bit expensive. It's not the cheapest, most the quantity mon on the GTL. It can be kind of tough to find them. So Cloysters, there's a lot of downsides, but man, if you set up one Shell Smash with this thing, it just does insane damage. It's pretty hard to stop. It's pretty naturally bulky. So with that 180 defense, you're not going to need the Focus Sash most of the time. It gets just enough speed, being 70 speed and getting that +2 off Shell Smash. If you aren't aware, Shell Smash is a move that lowers a Pokemon's defense and special defense stat by 1, but sharply raises, so +2 to special attack, and speed, making this thing an offensive monster. You can also go mixed with it throughout the storyline and pop Ice Beam on it or something of the sort to have some sort of special attacking move, since that is getting boosted by its Shell Smash. Cloyster's also a really nice bulky water type and just has really good coverage if you're willing to put in the money for the TMs. But that's it for Cloyster. Let's go ahead and move on to our number 4 slot. Back on the main account in our number 4 slot, we are going to have Starmie. Starmie is the definition of a bulky water, and its stats are just incredible. 100 base special attack, 115 base speed, 85 base defenses, alongside the lackluster 60 base HP, but everything else is making up for it, and it has an incredible coverage set if you're willing to put a little bit of money into TMs for it. And that's the real biggest negative of Starmie. In my opinion, to unlock the true power of Starmie, you do have to pay a little bit of Pokeyen and TMs for things like Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. It will obviously learn Surf and Psychic naturally, or even Hydro Pump if you want to rock that in the storyline, but I think Surf is better for the consistency. Those two moves are great and free. You learn via start and everything. It's awesome, but Ice Beam and Thunderbolt are going to cost you a little bit of Pokeyen. Now, you can go with Power Gem. Power Gem is actually a really solid option, and I recommend doing that throughout the storylines. You want to not spend too much Pokeyen on your storyline mons. You want to be able to save that in PokeMMO. It's really, really important to save that Pokeyen. So going Power Gem, I think, is better. I would probably go Power Gem and then either Ice Beam or Thunderbolt. Probably Ice Beam. It's usually a better move, but sometimes the T-Bolt coverage can be important. But Ice Beam is generally going to be better in most Pokemon storylines, but maybe it depends per region. But personally, I would recommend going the Surf, Psychic, Power Gem, budget, and then Ice Beam. Maybe slot in, for 1 TM sort of moveset. If you really want to, you could probably even go Rapid Spin or Recover over Ice Beam and just have a super budget Starmie, which I think is totally valid. I think at that point, once again, like I said, you're not really pulling out the full potential of Starmie, but for a storyline, it might still be worth it. Starmie just has absolutely insane coverage, though, if you are able to put the TMs into it, and it has its own sustain with Recover, which is fantastic. It has speed, power, bulk. It's really an all-around incredible Pokemon. It's also pretty easy to get early on within Staryu. You only need to evolve it with a Water Stone. That is also the same with Shelder. I wish I would have mentioned that a little earlier. Shelder, you can just evolve with a Water Stone into Cloyster, so that is super nice and super impactful. All these Pokemon you can evolve with stones are really good early game, it turns out, in PokeMMO. When you're able to buy the stones off the GTL for super cheap or something, you're able to fish this thing up in Cerulean City. Once again, similar to Shelder, you do need the Super Rod or Good Rod most of the time, so that's going to be the main factor. But these are once again sort of Pokemon you want to get on your second, third, or fourth sort of storyline, not really your first. We'll talk about the first line storyline Pokemon coming up here at the very beginning or at the end of the video. Blossom is a actually very good first storyline Pokemon. So if you're in first storyline Pokemon, I would stick with Blossom, and then the number 1 pick we'll cover here in a little bit. But let's go ahead and move on from Starmie and go on to our number 3 pick. The third Pokemon, this is where things get really big in power level, that will help you destroy all of PokeMMO, is going to be Scrafty. Specifically, Moxie Scrafty. You absolutely need the Moxie ability on it, and you'll sort of see that trend for these next 3 Pokemon. Moxie just so happens to be the best ability in the entire game for storyline runs. By far, it's not even close. I will say you absolutely have to, in my opinion, invest a little bit of Pokeyen into Scrafty, but only Dragon Dance. That's all you really need. Just pay the 20k for the Dragon Dance TM. Usually it's on the GTL, although you can go to the Unova shopping mall or other locations to get access to it. Dragon Dance is an absolute must on Scrafty, in my opinion. 30k, excuse me. Absolute must on Scrafty for storyline runs, and I'll explain why. So if we look at Scrafty's base stats, we see a really surprisingly bulky Pokemon. 115 defense, 115 special defense, 90 attack is decent, 65 HP is a little low, 58 speed is super low. So with Dragon Dance Scrafty, we're able to use its defenses to stay bulky and set up and take very little hits, while raising its attack and speed, which it so desperately needs. I always say, if you are able to set up 2 Dragon Dances on Scrafty, the game is over. Scrafty is the definition of a 6v1 or 1v6 absolute unstoppable sweeper, the most unstoppable Pokemon in the game in my opinion. Once he is able to set up 2 Dragon Dances, he will simply beat anything and anyone. It's unstoppable and it's really, really powerful. The reason being is after he sets up those 2 Dragon Dances, obviously his power is going to be insane, but he also has access to Drain Punch as a TM. If you want to invest into that, it's going to be able to sustain him and heal him after tanking so many hits to set up that many times. But even if you don't, you should be able to kill everything with his pretty nice coverage. He learns Crunch and high jump kick, which is super nice and powerful. Brick Break is honestly a really nice early on option as well, and even Beat Up early on if you want to rock that dark type. Things like Low Kick can also work somewhat. Facade is also really nice, even though it's not stab, it's a great move. He just has a lot of really decent early game moves, and Scraggy works pretty similarly to him, and that's one of the biggest downfalls of him, is that you will have Scraggy until level 39, which is definitely a bit later, but once you get access to Scrafty, you'll just be sweeping through the late game. The E4 will be no problem whatsoever, but that's one of the biggest downfalls, is with a storyline Pokemon, you really do want to gain access to the most powerful form of it early on. Moving on to Pokemon number 2, which will help you destroy through the PokeMMO storyline. It's going to be another Moxie Pokemon in Crocodile, and you'll really start to notice this trend. Moxie Pokemon are all the rage. Now, funnily enough, you can actually catch the Sandile, the previous evolution of Crocodile, and Scraggy in the same exact location in Unova on Route 4. Route 4 and Unova, they're both very common. So if you have Unova unlocked and want to prepare for your other regions, this is why I tell people to always do Unova as your first region if you don't mind. Being able to finish Unova, go and farm yourself some Sandiles and Scraggys to just destroy every other region in PokeMMO early on is super, super beneficial and will really speed up your pace of storylines. Crocodile's base stats are just absolutely phenomenal, and he is sort of the antithesis to Scrafty, where Scrafty, you want to come in and set up Dragon Dances and then 6v1. Crocodile wants to come in and immediately start punching faces. He wants to immediately start impacting the game and punching holes in the enemy's team with its 117 base attack and 92 speed. These are the perfect stats to allow it to come in, just start clicking moves and trying to kill stuff to keep snowballing and snowballing. Most of the time, Crocodile will either solo carry a fight or take out at least 4 out of the 6 Pokemon in the big fights against the Elite Four and stuff, punching a big enough hole in the enemy team to allow you to take the W. He is immediate impact. You don't have to waste any time on setup moves or anything of the sort. He just comes in, throws out some Earthquakes, some even Crunch or Assurance. As you can see here, Stone Edge. Early game, Sandile gets access to Bite and stuff. Sandile is a decent Pokemon. 72 base attack early on is nothing to scoff at. 65 base speed. Krokorok gets pretty decent, but you really unlock that power at level 40. Once again, one of the biggest downfalls of these Pokemon is that you don't get the strongest form of them until level 40, but they all still have Moxie. That's a huge thing, is that the previous evolutions all have access to that powerful ability, and that's what really makes these Pokemon powerful, is that ability Moxie. Now, before we go to our number 1 slot, I actually want to go ahead and talk about something that a lot of you might have on your minds. I want to talk about another powerful Moxie Pokemon that was added to the game recently that people always ask me about. Hey, why isn't this on your list? Hey, isn't this Pokemon good in the storyline? And I'll give you my reasons why it's not. And I'm talking about Alpha Moxie Salamence. So Moxie Salamence was recently added to the game, and Salamence is an incredibly powerful Pokemon. It's a dragon type with Moxie, and it has Dragon Dance. It's a dragon dancing dragon with 135 base attack and 100 speed. Isn't this just like the best Pokemon of all time for storyline runs? And the reason why it's not is because, unfortunately, you don't get Salamence until level 50. And all of the Pokemon before it, Sheldon and Pokeyen, are pretty notoriously terrible in the storylines. They're really, 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 really bad. And this really limits Salamence to only being good against the Elite Four. If you're not able to access a storyline Pokemon until the Elite Four, it's not really a storyline Pokemon. At that point, it's just a little too late game to where it's pretty brutal and not very powerful. Things like Scrafty and Crocodile get the pass because you are able to use their lower level forms to a lot more of effect, where Sheldon and Pokeyen are just going to be useless throughout the storylines and really bring you nothing, unfortunately. That's my main issue. People always ask me about that. It's a really good question, and I had to kind of myself come to that conclusion of, oh, you know what? You get it way too late. That's why it's not good. A similar thing actually occurs for Volcarona. I really wish I could recommend Volcarona over Blossom, but you don't get Volcarona to level 59, so that's obviously impossible, but Volcarona would be quite the Quiver Dance user. Alright, but it is finally time to talk about the number one Pokemon on this list. This is by far the most powerful Pokemon to beat any storyline within PokeMMO, and it's not even close. It is not even remotely close, in my opinion. We are, of course, talking about the newly added Moxie Gyarados to PokeMMO. Gyarados was already number 2 or 3 on my list and had been slowly climbing and really giving me just a huge attention. It was a really, really powerful Pokemon in the storyline runs, and the more I used it, the more I realized how good it was. But once it got access to Moxie, the already most powerful ability for storyline runs in the game, it just sent it so farther over the top than any other Pokemon. So let's go ahead and try to break down all of the reasons why Gyarados is just this good. All right, first of all, we all understand that the Moxie ability is already so incredibly good. It allows you to snowball in the storyline runs. Let's move on from that. One of my favorite things about Gyarados is that obviously it's really, really easy to get pretty much in any region and any storyline in any Pokemon game. Look at this, how many encounters there are. All these very common encounters, because getting Magikarp is super, super easy to get. Now, you also get Gyarados at level 20, which if you don't know, you can literally get a Gyarados before the first gym in any Pokemon game. You can get a Gyarados before taking on Brock. That's hilarious. I guess you have to get the Old Rod first technically, but, subtleties. Anyways, go ahead and move on. Gyarados' move pool is one of my favorite things. Gyarados' move pool learns everything you are going to need via Learn Set. You don't have to spend any money, not a dime, on TMs. It learns Rain Dance to reset the weather and also gain control and benefits for itself. It learns Waterfall, which is also an HM. It learns Crunch, and it learns Dragon Dance. That's the 4 moves that I always recommend. You can technically go like Ice Fang or some sort of other move over top of it as well, or even Thrash, I guess, but I usually recommend Rain Dance, Waterfall, Crunch, Dragon Dance. That's all you really need. Set up 1 Dragon Dance on your Gyarados, your Moxie Gyarados, and you just sweep. It's really that simple. All you need is 1 Dragon Dance. Setting up Rain Dance can be nice sometimes if you're against AI or gym leaders or trainers who set up their own weather. That's the main reason you want to do it, because a lot of trainers and E4 members will try to set up their own weather for benefits, and that stuff can get really powerful when they start whipping out those Solar Beam Ninetales and everything. So you want to be able to cancel out their weather. That's the main reason for the Rain Dance. And if you aren't aware, Gyarados' base stats are just absolutely phenomenal. 95 base HP, 79 base defense, 100 base special defense, 125 attack, and 81 speed is perfect for storylines. It's just fast enough where you're going to be able to outspeed everything with the proper set, but you're not going to be able to you're not wasting any stats on speed. You're going to be just fast enough. Now, I will say, Moxie Gyarados has to be acquired in a certain way. You can't just go fish up a wild Magikarp in the wild and acquire a Moxie Pokemon. However, this leads me to the point that normal Gyarados is still really, really good, arguably even number 1. Gyarados without Moxie might still be the best Pokemon in PokeMMO for storyline runs. That's kind of up for debate, but let's go ahead and check out the price of Moxie Gyarados, and this is probably going to be one of the biggest downfalls. So if we select hidden ability yes, and then search for Gyarados, and we search, we see 30k is around the cheapest price, which is honestly not nearly as bad as I thought it was. You definitely want some sort of decent IV Gyarados. That is the big thing. You want something with, I would look for something with some sort of decent nature. You don't need Adamant. You really don't. You can go Lonely. If you can find something that's Lonely with like decent speed and 6 attack, it's kind of low, but if you can find something like this, let's go ahead and turn for Naughty. some sort of decent Gyarados is just going to be super, super, super powerful. That's a little too bad. This one's pretty good. I honestly maybe would rock this, or just something like the Lonely one, even though it has that 6, was it this one? That 6 attack, that nature is going to carry it, and the speed is really nice. So honestly, that Gyarados could really work quite well. That's the main flaw, is that Gyarados is going to be Moxie Gyarados, especially by the time Johto releases. I think the cheapest Moxie Gyarados could be upwards of like anywhere from like 50 to 100k. I think Moxie Gyarados is going to get really expensive by the time Johto releases. Just a little bit of a wink wink. Just my personal thoughts, personal opinion. Don't make any financial decisions based off that, but maybe get one prepared if you want to be safe. But yeah, Gyarados is just super incredible, super powerful. It already was, and then it got access to the Moxie ability. That's really all you need to say. Hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. If you did enjoy it, always make sure to leave a like on the video physically. It helps out a ton on YouTube. Subscribing to the channel if you want to see daily PokeMMO videos. Following me on Twitch if you want to see streams Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. EST. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to the release of Johto coming up here in spring. My Discord is also linked down below if you want to see updates for the game and on my content as soon as possible. And if you want to go above and beyond, if you've enjoyed enough hours of my content to either A, help you or mildly entertain you in the background while you're playing PokeMMO, going above and beyond with YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, and most importantly, PayPal/Venmo really do allow me to stay full-time and allow me to try to make the best PokeMMO content every single day. Thank you guys for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and if you're watching this, that means you watched until the very end of the video, and I want to say thank you so much for that. Hopefully, it was a positive asset on your day. And I want to say thank you to everyone's name who is listed here. These guys go above and beyond and are positive assets on my day and allow me to do what I do, trying to make the best PokeMMO content every day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. Peace.